Hello, fiends, friends, and familiars. This is Matt Orozco here from Macabre Daily, and I'm excited today because I'm joined by two people, one of whom you may have seen before, others who are new to Macabre Daily. Joined by writer and director Izzy Lee and star of House of Ashes, Fayna Sanchez. Nice to have you both with me today.
Yay. Thank you for having
For
us,
having
Matt.
us.
So happy to have you. And seriously, as I was saying before we hit record, House of Ashes, been waiting to see it for such a long time. Finally got to see it. It's really good. Like, cannot wait for other people to see this on the 28th. And just as a reminder, before I get into my questions, October 28th, you can pick this up on VOD. Please make sure to do it. Support independent horror, support great independent horror at that. But Izzy, I want to lob my first question over to you. Now, when I was reading kind of the bio that the PR firm sends to us about what this movie inspirations are, the first thing that stood out to me is that it's somewhat of a reaction to a lot of what's been happening at the federal level here in the United States with regards to the lack like reduction of women's rights. Obviously, the takeover a lot of kind of conservative and right wing ideologies in our popular culture. But I'm curious, kind of how all of that kind of turned into House of Ashes. How did you take these kind of nebulous ideas of loss of rights and things that are very real, but also kind of, not tangible and turn them into something as provocative and powerful as House of Ashes?
Well, simply put, horror filmmakers, we tend to write about our anxieties, our fears. We tend to distill the actual terrors of the society that we're living in into stories. Horror is especially wonderful for this because you can explore so many limitless possibilities. Working in metaphors, using surrealism, using long, long takes with nothing but ambient droning and dread. You know what I mean? It's
The best.
it's an interesting gig.
Yeah, I mean, I love those kind of long, drawn out silences that almost it simulates the awkwardness that we find ourselves in sometimes in conversation with folks, where you almost feel tempted to fill the space with something, even though sometimes that silence is exactly what you need in that moment. Um, you know, Fina, in regards to the role of Mia, this has got to be one of the more challenging roles in regards to things that not just you've taken on, but just in general, because you're playing someone who's been through quite the ringer and still has so much more to deal with in regards to how they're treated by the ones around them, the ones that supposedly care about them. But as you were reading the script for the first time, what stood out to you in the role of Mia? Like, what's something, what did you see within yourself that you're like, oh, I really want to bring this to this character?
Yeah, I mean, I think exactly what you said is she's been put through what should probably break her, right? Like she's been through so much loss, experiencing so much grief, um, but she doesn't. And that I think in terms of like if we're talking about metaphors, I feel like that is like the ultimate human condition, or at least that's how like I kind of get turned on by characters like that because I think that's so true to life. I think that we can, especially right now, every single day we're met with such horrors and such loss and grief, and it could break us. I think you could choose to just kind of give up to succumb to all the tragedy and loss. And I think what really got me excited was experiencing all of that, but still fighting and still keeping, love and fight in your heart. I think that's what those kind of characters are just like, that's all I want to do.
It's very much a survivor character. And I think you're so right about this being kind of perfect for the moment we're in that, when Mia, we first meet Mia after she's been through arguably one of the worst things that could ever happen to anybody, which is they've lost their best friend, significant other, and they were blamed for it, right? And it's like, and now they're being punished for something that isn't their fault, right? That's something that, and I think that's kind of speaks to the current like political moment we're in, is that this does dabble in the realm of like what happens when we take away women's rights and we start to criminalize them to the extent that it ends up impacting people, in the way it does Mia. And Izzy, I'm curious to know when you were kind of going through the story beats and taking Mia through this journey. What were some of the non-negotiables you had for the character in terms of how this person needed to show up for your story and also where they needed to kind of begin and also end their arc?
Wow, that's an amazing question. And there's, you could talk for days. I could talk for days about it. Non-negotiables, not helpless, definitely rattled, and um, not in the greatest place mentally or physically when we start out with the film. But I needed her to not only survive, but little by little, she's noticing things. She's going to fight. She's going to fight back. There has to be a point where she finds her strength. We considered, my co-writer and I, Steve, we considered a nihilist ending, and it didn't feel right to me to do that. Things are so fucking hopeless that I needed to give any of our viewers, especially our women, a little bit of hope because enough. When is
Yeah.
enough? You know what I mean? And I happen to be a fighter myself, so here we are. I hope that answered your question. Feel free to expand on that.
No, I mean, I think it does perfectly. And I think what's, again, we meet when we interface with Mia, you can tell that there's a level of she's picking up her pieces, I guess. And I think that's something a lot of us can relate to is that we're kind of constantly going through these cycles of terrible things happening and learning how to pick ourselves up and do it all over literally within the next day. Like, we turn on the news every day, or maybe we don't. I don't know. I limit myself to about 1 hour of NPR a day, and then I'm like, yeah, it's about the extent I need for now. But it's like we have to find a way to go continue through our days doing that, knowing that in the back of our head there's something happening either near us or far away that's completely awful. And then you add into the layers the fact of our identity, right? If you happen to be a woman in this country, that also limits how you can show up to the extent that the way in which society's pushing you that way. And, Fina, when you think about the kind of entering that role, like that's a really tough emotional spot to be in. And it requires, I'm just curious kind of what your prep and also your kind of cool down process is to get into that emotionally state because you are so believable as Mia to the point where it's like we're watching and like it's very tender at the beginning. You almost kind of feel like you're delicate, like you're like just the smallest thing is gonna not so much break you, but just you've been through so much. Like how much more can you take, and it's got to be
Oh,
emotionally taxing.
well, thank you, Matt. Yeah, I mean, and to Izzy's point, we really it was really important to me to not that she wasn't helpless, you know. Um, but yeah, I don't know if it's the healthiest thing to do. And honestly, I think, recently someone actually uh accused me of being method. Um, and I like got so offended by it. I got so offended by it. But it's not method. It's just it's responsibility. I felt a such a responsibility to this character, to this story, to this moment, that I really wanted. I just felt, yeah, responsibility is kind of the word that sticks in my mind. So prepping for it, we had a huge backstory. Izzy created a backstory for him, and then I expanded, on that. I made a Mia playlist that I listened to every morning. Anytime we took a break, I would have different parts of the playlist for different parts of the movie. So like that was a really impactful thing. I also, we have Izzy and I have a shared document where we were putting all of the news stories of women who were being convicted of this exact thing. And
Yeah.
and I would read that and I would read their stories and I would look at them and I would hold that in my heart so that it was like not to, I'm an actor, so of course I'm like being very dramatic right now, but I don't care what that if that sounds dramatic, you know what I mean? Like this is happening to real people. And so it kind of gave me freedom to go there because it wasn't about me. It was about it was about Izzy's story. It was about this stuff that was happening here. So I really stayed in it. This was three pretty brutal weeks
Yeah.
of shooting. Um, so I couldn't really, there wasn't enough time to like decompress and then come back. It was like I kind of had to just stay in it because I didn't want to lose it. Um, I don't think that's method. I think that that's just good practice.
It's
Um,
immersion. I mean, I think method
yeah,
and I think method gets a bad rap because of bad people who've made it a
right,
bad rap, right?
right, exactly.
Versus like, really immersing yourself in a role and kind of putting yourself in the mental headspace to be able to carry the weight of those stories because it is like the best way to get yourself into a headspace is probably to read the news right now. It's like, okay, let me just pick something that's really upsetting and then
Yeah,
I'll be upset about it,
exactly.
you know?
Pick one of the
Yeah,
5,000 things every day.
right,
Exactly. Like, is the genocide going to get me there today? Is it going to be the lack of rights that's going to get me there? Like, all of these
right.
things are
Yeah,
compiling, and like this
exactly.
story only focuses on kind of a handful of them, right? But they're very important ones that are happening within not just this country, but this context. And this has been like kind of like a long time, I want to say, long time in terms of it's been forever, but this debuted last year at Brooklyn Horror Film Festival. It's now getting a wider release here on VOD. How do you perpetuate kind of the hype cycle that we live in with a film when it kind of you have this such a long timeline of having to keep it relevant to people when there's so much content and we're always getting asked to look at something else or something new. So what's it like for you all as far as keeping this conversation fresh and keeping it awares for folks like myself and others who have yet to view it?
Well, the thing is, we're constantly being traumatized by everything this criminal organization is doing to the people. They're not a presidency. They're not quite a regime they want to be. They're a cabal of fucking criminals. All right?
Yep.
Full stop. And I think there's no keeping it fresh because it's fresh every day. The atrocities don't end, and I am hopeful for a time, hopefully sooner than later, where it will end. It is not an easy thing to talk about. It's pretty difficult, but I do take comfort in the fact that it has touched a lot of people. Specifically, if I remember that guy in Glasgow,
Yeah.
oh my God, like um, he told us during the Q&A that his wife has had 11 miscarriages. That is
Wow.
so much fucking grief. And you know, later at the hotel, I had some moments where I was just like, Jesus, this is, I'm running on little sleep, several different time zones away from California, and I have just really connected with a total stranger and feeling really fulfilled and reaching my dreams, and yet it's sort of also a tragedy. So it's like it's really confusing,
It's
But
bittersweet.
it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really a testament to Izzy and Steve as well because, not only is it because it's, you go into these experiences with people and we were strangers. We didn't know each other, before we signed on to this,
Yeah.
and it's been such a learning experience for me. And I know, Izzy, I think it has been for you as well. And you don't I didn't recognize that like saying yes to the film is like actually saying yes to like a partnership
Yeah.
in 2 years, 2 year span of the film. Um, and so I guess like you just saying it right now is like, wow, we premiered 1 year ago this month. And it's been a year of promoting and sharing the film and all of that stuff. And it really takes a village. It takes people like you, Matt. Like it takes, I feel so lucky that we've had, big support from a lot of people that, have either enjoyed the film or it's touched them or whatever. But, indie filmmaking is hard. It's hard. And anytime a movie can be made and released, it's a damn miracle, you know, and
Amen.
it takes a village. And so I feel just so lucky to be a part of this experience. And I feel so grateful that, you know, what a year to now also celebrate the release. It's like it's hundreds of people have gotten us here, you know, and I just feel really, really grateful to all of them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for a couple of things. One, Izzy, I think that you've reached this self-fulfillment almost of like, you when your story resonates with somebody to the point where like you've had like you get an emotional impact from it. It's like that's why we tell stories is to connect and relate. And at the basic level, like when a story, whether it's because I had a good time watching or because I've experienced similar strife or tragedy in my life, like I think that's a huge testament just to the story and the filmmaking and the power behind it. So, I think huge kudos to you all for having, getting that reaction from people and, no, like just to acknowledge that also this just you all just had a huge feature from BJ Colangelo in this month's most recent Fangoria. And like being in Fangoria is like I think most people who grew up watching genre films, it's like that's my, New York Times, right? Like that's where I
Yeah.
want to be seen or something like that. But not only that, by written by a writer who's immensely talented, and has their finger on the pulse of not just pop culture but genre.
Yeah, you can't
So
see, but I have goosebumps.
but that's, I mean, you said indie filmmaking's hard, Fina, but the thing is, I think it also has the ability to have that impact where studio films don't always connect emotionally in that way with the audience because there's so much spectacle. And it's not about, the stories are human, right? Like One Battle After Another is probably the first movie in a long time that's been made by a studio that's really resonating with people on like an emotional level, but it's because it's very timely, right? And I think this film has this almost, unfortunate timeliness to it in the current state where it's like these are problems we're facing with now and they're not going away in the short term. But when you think about the legacy, you would like this film to have beyond just what in where we are today, what would you like that to be?
Empowering women to fight back, finding your inner strength. As hard as it is to get back up, knockout after knockout, and just keep fighting because I don't think life is really worth living otherwise. And I am trying my hardest to do that through storytelling to spread that message.
Yeah, very well said, Izzy. I think, yeah, for me it's that and also like um how do I say it? That nothing can actually break you. That you have the power of love in your heart. Like that's yours. That no one around you can actually take that from you. That is yours to give and to have for yourself. And so like yeah, like fighting for sure, but also like loving, like keeping that love in your heart no matter how many times you're ripped apart, you know?
And isn't that the definition of badass?
It
Yes.
is.
To walk through the
Yeah.
fire and still come out and still fight and still have love in your heart.
Yeah.
And I think to your point earlier, Izzy, about not choosing not to make this a nihilistic ending. I think that it would be so much harder to try and have that message of hope. I think if this were to end in a much more dour, and potentially more kind of grounded, right, in our current moment reality of like, yeah, shit really sucks right now, and here's what that looks like in practice. But I do think that there's a level of hope and the way in which Mia finds herself through this story and starts to understand who really has her back, right? And at the end of the day, it's really her, right? It's
Mhm.
like, she has her own back, and that's the most important one.
Mhm.
So my last question for you both is just a little bit more of a fun one, but it can be a little difficult, which is just, if you were asked to program a double feature with House of Ashes, what do you think would make a fun or interesting companion piece to go alongside it?
Ooh.
Do you have an answer? You
Yeah,
can.
I've got one. I've got one. Um, I was like watching a ton of uh like um like one location kind of stuck at home films like as I was prepping for this. And I thought This is a big this is a big flex. What Lies Beneath.
Oh,
Oh,
fun.
yes, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. That's actually one of the comps for this movie.
Yeah. I feel like that's a good I'll hang out with Michelle Pfeiffer all day.
Oh, hell yeah. No, that is
Right? It's
yeah.
Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
yeah,
And Harrison Ford, I
definitely.
think.
And Harrison Ford. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gaslighting the movie.
Oh yeah.
Gaslighting the movie,
Yes,
exactly.
exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. I mean, this is only off the top of my and like that is the perfect answer, but the top of my head, like Alien is a very, very strong female lead. And I feel like that phrase gets batted around a little bit too much these days, but I don't think really anyone can do better than Ellen Ripley. You know what I mean? It is sci-fi horror, but it is definitely a haunted house movie. It has a woman not being believed, pushed around, dismissed, until all the people die and they should have listened to her, and her and the cat survive. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is
I'll
how
hang
it
out with
probably will
Sigourney
be.
Weaver and Michelle Pfeiffer all day.
yeah, man.
And you're right, Izzy. I do think we kind of, I don't want to say it's cheapened the term, but like, Alien and Ripley's character in and of itself is so much stronger than any of the leads, regardless of gender, right? Like the amount of things that she has to put up with is so much greater than what we've seen, even like, people, let's say like, Harrison Ford and like Indiana Jones, right? Like there's always someone to kind of save him, but like no one's saving Ripley. Like she's on her own, trying to
Mhm.
convince everyone like you guys are crazy. This is bullshit. Let's get the hell out of here.
Mhm, that's right.
But everyone's like, no, our precious capitalism. Um,
Yup. Nothing's changed in the last
Yeah.
50 years.
no,
Yeah.
it hasn't. But hopefully it will. And I think stories like these, like, again, just to put more praise on this film, is that I think we need more stories that are going to challenge the narratives we see today and remind people that there is hope in horror, that it doesn't have to be a bleak and dour place for kind of like, the most nightmarish things to happen. It's a place where nightmares kind of get their chance to get exercised a little bit. So to you both and to the rest of the team behind the film, just a sincere congratulations and a reminder, everyone watching this, that on the 28th of October, you can grab it on VOD. 30th, oops, excuse me, 30th of October. And hopefully you'll have a physical release at some point. I would love to hear the people, the different essayists and talking heads out there who I love to read. I'm sure have plenty of wonderful and brilliant things to say about this. So hopefully that's in the cards for you all in the future.
Fingers crossed. Thank you
Thank you
Yes.
so
so
much.
much,
This has
Matt.
been a delight.
It's a
Yeah.
pleasure. Thank you both. Talk to you, hopefully again, talk to you again soon.
Would love to.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt.